Sometimes seen as an eccentric figure or a lone genius, the British poet and printmaker William Blake has become best known for his uniquely visionary ideas, radical poetry and artworks. Throughout his life in the late 1700s and early 1800s, Blake watched on as the world was changed drastically by revolution and war, slavery and colonialism. He made a simple living as a professional engraver, but in his own works he responded to a world in crisis through strange and powerful images of human suffering and spiritual salvation. He truly believed art and poetry could redeem humanity. Blake was in his 60s when this plaster cast was made, and according to his friend and fellow artist George Richmond, he lost a good quantity of hair in a somewhat painful process. Life masks were popular at the time, when people known as phrenologists thought they could determine a person's character from the shape of their head. A large forehead like Blake's, for example, was thought to represent his similarly large imagination. In 1800, a young Filipp Otto Rунге heard about an exciting national art competition in Germany called the Weimar Prize Competition, run by renowned German author Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Although the artist didn't enter that year, he kept a close eye on the reviews of those who did and felt confident enough to submit this drawing the following year. The theme he chose was Achilles and the river, the epic fight between the ancient Greek mythological hero Achilles and the river god Scamander. But Runge's hopes were dashed by less than glowing reviews. One critic called his composition utterly confused and meaningless, and suggested the artist needs to contemplate the works of the great masters and undertake a rigorous study of antiquity. These sorts of classical Greek themes were popular with artists at the time, but Rунge chose to move further and further away from classicism. After all, he had new ideas about art, and instead he'd go on to become one of the leading artists of the German Romantic movement. This very youthful looking portrait of the radical poet, printmaker and artist William Blake is currently on display in our exhibition William Blake's Universe. In his review of the show, Guardian art critic Jonathan Jones says the artist makes Blake look like a supernatural fairy being in this work. But who is the artist? Most likely drawn from memory after her husband's death, this portrait is by Catherine Blake. She was an artist in her own right, but also central to her husband's printmaking process, especially the mixing and application of colours. In fact, fellow artist Samuel Palmer specifically referred to a colour as Mrs. Blake's white in a letter. In a biography of William Blake from 1863, the author described how the poet and his wife did everything, including writing, designing, printing and engraving. And according to their friend William Haley, they were animated by one soul. Made around 1830, this portrait is one of the only few surviving artworks by Catherine Blake.
Tiger, tiger, burning bright, in the forest of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eye?